What if I told you that the thing sitting in your pocket right now is doing something to your brain that looks eerily similar to what hard drugs do? Not metaphorically. Not as some exaggerated clickbait comparison. I mean literally, at the neurological level, the overlap is genuinely disturbing. And by the end of this video, you might look at your phone very differently. So let's get into it. Let's start with drugs. When someone takes a substance like MDMA, the brain gets flooded with chemicals it normally produces on its own, just in quantities it was never designed to handle. Serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine all surge simultaneously. The result is an overwhelming sense of connection, euphoria, and pleasure. The brain is essentially hijacked. Its natural reward circuitry gets overloaded, and because the brain is always trying to maintain balance, it compensates by becoming less sensitive to those chemicals over time. That's tolerance. That's dependency. That's addiction forming in real time. Now let's talk about your phone. Every notification, every new post that appears when you swipe down on your feed, each one of those triggers a small dopamine release. Not a flood like a drug would cause, but a consistent drip. And here's what makes it actually more insidious in some ways: the unpredictability. You don't know exactly when the reward is coming, which keeps your brain in a state of constant anticipation. Neuroscientists call this variable reward scheduling, and it's the same mechanism that makes slot machines so addictive. Tech companies didn't stumble onto this accidentally. They studied the neuroscience and built their platforms around it deliberately. So what does this actually look like inside your skull? Research using brain imaging has found that heavy smartphone users show distinct patterns of activity compared to people with healthier usage habits. When an addicted brain tries to complete a simple task, it actually works harder, fires more, and paradoxically performs worse. The brain becomes hyperactive in ways that reduce its efficiency. It sounds backwards, but more activity doesn't mean better function. Think of it like an engine revving so hard it starts to overheat. And the dopamine connection gets even more specific. Your brain has reward pathways that evolve to help you survive. They fire when you eat food, when you connect with other people, when you accomplish something meaningful. Your phone has essentially colonized those pathways. Every time you check your screen and find something new, those circuits light up in response. And because checking your phone requires almost zero effort, the cost to reward ratio stays favorable enough to keep you repeating the behavior thousands of times per day. The average person reportedly touches their phone over 2,000 times daily. That is a staggering number when you sit with it. Now compare that to how drug addiction develops. Repeated exposure to a substance gradually changes the brain's baseline. The user needs more of the substance to feel the same effect. In between uses, they feel worse than they did before they ever started. Withdrawal becomes a real, physically felt experience. What happens when people go without their phones? Studies show they experience measurable anxiety within hours. Their cortisol levels, the stress hormone, actually rise. Go without it for even a day, and many people grow restless and irritable, fidgeting, reaching for a phone that isn't there, gripped by a compulsive urge to check. That is a withdrawal symptom. That is your nervous system in distress over the absence of a stimulus it became dependent on. The attention span damage is worth pausing on because it speaks to a deeper structural change in how the brain operates. Research involving college students found that people who frequently use their phones during the day can sustain focused attention on a single object for only about 65 seconds. Office workers using phones at work average around 3 minutes of continuous focus. When a group of students was tested, those who received text messages during the exam scored about 20% lower than those who had their phones off entirely. The brain can only hold one or two coherent thoughts at a time, and every interruption forces a context switch. Each switch comes with a cost. String enough of them together and you've essentially shattered your ability to think deeply about anything. Here's where the emotional weight of this really lands. The damage isn't just cognitive. Research is starting to connect heavy screen use to increased rates of depression and anxiety, particularly in younger users. Teenagers who spend 5 hours or more daily on mobile devices have been found to be significantly more likely to show risk factors for depression than those who keep usage to around an hour. That's not a small effect size. That's a population-level mental health signal hiding inside an activity most people treat as harmless entertainment. And yet, we don't treat screen addiction with the same seriousness we'd bring to any other addictive substance. Nobody stages an intervention because their teenager scrolls too much. There's no widespread social stigma, no warning labels, no age gating that actually works. We have allowed devices that rewire the brain's reward architecture to become the defining feature of daily life for billions of people, including children, with relatively little meaningful pushback. The comparison to drugs isn't designed to panic you. It's designed to realign your sense of what's actually happening. The mechanisms overlap more than most people realize. Dopamine hijacking, tolerance building, withdrawal symptoms, cognitive impairment, mood dysregulation. These aren't features unique to illicit substances. They are outcomes of any system that exploits your brain's reward circuitry relentlessly enough for long enough. The good news is the brain is remarkably plastic. Studies tracking people who significantly reduce their phone use show measurable improvements in sleep quality, anxiety levels, attention span, and even mood after just 2 weeks. The brain can recover. The pathways can be retrained, but that requires acknowledging the problem honestly, which means looking at your phone not as a neutral tool, but as something your brain has formed a genuine dependency on. So next time you reach for your device without a specific reason, without actually needing anything, just out of reflex, ask yourself what you're really looking for. Because there's a reasonable chance it's the same thing anyone reaching for any addictive substance is looking for. A hit of something that makes the discomfort of being present feel a little more bearable. And that's worth thinking about, preferably with your phone face down somewhere across the room.